We are live on Facebook, live on YouTube. What's up, everybody? You guys are getting to watch the behind the scenes of the Smoke Ring Syndicate. We're here this morning with SCA's Brett Gallaway in the house. Can you hear me, Brett?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Okay, so we're on a little bit of a delay, it sounds like.
Okay.
Do you have earbuds in?
I don't have earbuds, but might be able to find some.
I'm just wondering. It's never had me on a delay like this, so it was kind of bizarre.
Yeah, and I'm running through my laptop. So I use this laptop for StreamYard a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a delay. It's weird.
It's improving now for whatever reason.
Is it?
Yeah.
You want me to look for a pair of headphones real quick?
No, it seems to have caught back up. I think it's almost caught back up. Pretty close anyways.
Good deal.
So, well, hit my intro and we'll get started.
Sounds good, buddy.
What's up, guys? Wes, the People's Pitmaster, back again for another episode of the Smoke Ring Syndicate. It's my weekly barbecue podcast that drops every Wednesday at 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This week, we're headed west to Texas. Brett Gallaway, SCA, in the house. Brett, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. Ready to roll.
Loud and clear. So it looks like you're at headquarters of the SCA. So Brett Gallaway, you are the owner of the SCA, the Steak Cook-Off Association, correct?
Yes, sir. I've actually got a partner, Ken Phillips, in it.
That's right. I don't want to leave Ken out.
No. He's careful there. He is too. It takes an army, and he handles all the finance, and I do social and other aspects of it, and website and stuff. So it works out well.
Yeah. Well, you get to be you're the show pony, right?
Yeah. Dance, monkey boy, dance. That's what I'm doing. We have a great time with this.
Perfect. So Brett Gallaway, you're now the SCA guy. Everybody knows you as the steak guy. What did you do before steak, and what got you into the barbecue and competition world? Did you grow up in it, or what lit your passion for food services or food competition?
When I was a kid, I grew up in South Texas, and I thought I was Cajun till I was about 12, but it turns out my mom just blackened everything, couldn't cook for anything. Excuse my language. But my dad liked to grill outside, so I grilled with my dad a lot, and I got off into college. And when I was in college, we'd have a chef that would just disappear. Like, he wouldn't show up for work. And I talked to Chencho, was his name, and I said, Chencho, what's going on, man? Why do you just disappear? He says, well, when my lover comes in town, we disappear for a couple days. And then he always came back. I said, well, next time he comes in town, just let me know. And this was at a really nice steakhouse, Waterworks in Waco, Texas. And they would put me back there as, freshman in college. And I was cooking steaks at a, $50 a plate, $50 to $60 a plate steakhouse. So I got to learn to cook over live fire quite a bit. And that led me into the restaurant industry. And then I got into the recruiting side of the industry. And that's where I actually met Ken Phillips.
Okay.
And I saw the Texas Steak Cook-Off on television one day. And I said, man, I was sitting there with my wife. I said, I can do that. And my wife, I had never heard these words come out of her mouth. She said, you can do anything you want to. And I said, well, hell. I got out my laptop and I entered it. And I said, you sure? She said, yep. And I hit enter, and we went to our first cook-off, and Ken went with me, and we just knew we were going to win this thing. It was this cook-off in Hyco, Texas with 87 teams. And we knew we were just going to go down there and tear it up. And little did we know, we got destroyed. They called top 30 there, and we didn't hear our name. But at that event, there were 6 judges that judged every bite of food there.
Mm-hmm.
You want to taste 87 bites of food? I don't. I wouldn't. So we just kept that in mind. But, we had such a great time there that we said, hey, let's do it again. We went to our second event and we ended up winning that event.
Mm-hmm.
And we won the steak part, and then the wives, they won best camp. They would decorate. I mean, all the money we won was long gone with the stuff we had like a
Oh,
bull mascot uniform that blew up with air. And I mean, we looked good. Thank God we could cook that day, but
yeah.
that led us to the world championship that was the biggest one in the world then, or biggest steak cook-off in the world then. And
Yeah.
we cooked it. We ended up winning there, and that's when things kind of changed a little bit, and we started noticing the rules were different at every event we went to.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what led us, Ken and I, into the competition world. And there was 9 steak cook-offs. This is 10 years ago. There was 9 steak cook-offs in the world then, and we got lucky enough to win 8 of them. Could never win that last one. Don't know, just wasn't in the cards. But our first year we ended up having 19, and then it just kept jumping. And last year I think we had 600 events last year, somewhere around there.
Holy moly!
So it, you hate to say it, COVID was such a tragic situation for the world, but during COVID our business over doubled.
Yeah.
KCBS, another organization, shut down during COVID. We took 6 weeks off, and we're literally, this is our job. So we were like, what do we do? And we got creative and put out a couple virtual cook-offs online. We did a burger one, did a hot dog one, and those seemed to keep interest going. And things started to ease up a little bit, and we had people wanting events, but we wanted to be safe. So we put some procedures in place, and we would hold an event in a field somewhere, and just make sure everyone was spaced apart, brought in extra tables for judges. And so we were able to make it work and continue to grow through COVID. And honestly, I think we grew too fast during COVID.
Really?
It's hard. You can only have so many cookers. If you have this many events, and then if you jump the events, now you're trying to catch up. And I think this year we're kind of falling where we should be, moving to where we should be. We're at about 400, and we'll end up probably 450 this year, which is great. That's a ton. Yeah. I remember when we had 29 events, and we were talking to Ken. I'm like, Ken, I don't know how we're going to keep up, man. I am stretched. I don't know what I'm going to do. And he said, oh, you can handle it. Well, then here we are, 8 years later, whatever it is. But it's been great. We've met so many amazing people, and people just want to do things where they're around like-minded people.
Yeah.
And coming out, cooking the one-day concept is big. You can get there that morning and leave that night.
Yeah.
So we tried some different things, and we have a lot of flexibility since it is Ken and I. We don't actually have a board. We are the board. If we see there's a decision we made that's not working, we can change it and roll it out to everyone. Hey, our bad. We tried this, and I think the best example is we went from running single events to doubles on the same day. And when we did, we tried about 10 different versions of we call our steak selection, where we let the teams pick their own steaks. And we couldn't nail this thing. And I think we were overthinking it, really. And so I said, well, what do we do best, Ken? I said, what do people like about our steak selection? And he looked at us, and we both agreed, hey, it works the way it is. Why are we reinventing it? So we just do 2 of the same selection.
Yeah.
I don't know why we didn't think of that at the beginning, but thankfully teams were patient with us, and we got it back on track with the doubles.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to me to watch the SCA kind of like, because I remember when it first hit the internet, and I was like, SCA, what in the world is this? Like, everybody cooks steaks at the house. Like, I don't see what the big draw for this is going to be. Sure. And here we are, like 10 years in, and it's like, oh, I definitely see it now. And being able to watch it kind of formulate and kind of change and evolve into what it is, watching 10 years in the making now. Because obviously I'm a little bit, I didn't get to watch the NBA start, or any of these other sanctioning bodies of food sports. So getting to watch this kind of evolve and turn into a food sport that's, like, at this point, worldwide, it's super fascinating, but it's also like you've got you've got all these other food sanctioning bodies. Very few of them are on a worldwide scale. When you guys
Mhm.
started, you're cooking there in Texas when you started. When y'all started and decided, you know what, we're going to make up rules for this, and this is going to be how you cook a steak for the SDA. Were y'all thinking, let's do some events in Texas and this will be a little fun side gig? Or were you guys thinking, oh, this is fixing to be the standard in the world?
We honestly, we weren't thinking that big when it started. I've got a tattoo up here, and you can probably see it. That's the SCA in Texas. So had I thought about it, I would have put world. And I got this tattoo, and we were kind of not floundering. I mean, we were growing fast, but I was still working my other job as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I, I was like, man, I was at a point I had to make a decision. Do you continue with SCA, or do you go back to what you were doing because it was secure for the family?
Yeah.
And I got to that point, and I told my wife, I said, I believe in what I'm doing, and I believe in what we're doing because she works with us. I said, I think it's going to go. So I got this tattoo, and as soon as I did, man, it started growing again.
Yeah.
Uh, let's just say it started growing to the point that I could just focus on this full time rather than recruiting as well.
Yeah.
So it was interesting, but we didn't think as big. And we got a call one day, and it was a middle of the night, and a guy called me, Jay Beaumont from Australia. And have you heard of Meat Stock?
Oh yeah, he was actually on the show 2 or 3 episodes ago.
Okay, Jay's a
Jay's super
great
cool
dude.
guy.
He's great. Yeah, and
Yeah.
Adam, his buddy, is even just as good a dude. But he called me. It was the middle of the night, and my wife, looks over. She's like, "Who's calling now?" And I got a phone. I was all excited. I said, "Some guy wants to bring us to Australia." She's like, "No way." I'm like, "Yeah." So that's kind of how we got our start. Jay gave us our start over there, and he was nice enough. He put us on all three of his meat stocks, which allowed us to train people there,
Yeah.
reps there to help run the system. And, it was that market is our second biggest market in the world right now.
Yeah.
First biggest is actually Italy, believe it or not.
Really?
Italy is membership wise, Italy is strong. And our world championship is coming up. I'm sure we'll get to that in a little bit, but it's coming up, and we're going to have over 70 international teams that
Oh
are traveling
wow.
around the world to cook two steaks or just an ancillary category. Um,
Yeah.
and we'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, it's really interesting how it's grown worldwide. And this is our largest international crowd. Last year we had 52 or 53 internationals total. We're
Wow.
going to be over 70 this year.
So so you guys start out and you're like looking at each other, you and Ken. We've got 30 events. How do we deal with 30 events? And now you're like, oh, we got 70 international worldwide teams coming to Texas.
Yeah,
Um,
it's insane, man. It's been a lot of fun. And like I say, I think it filled a void for some people that
yeah.
maybe they didn't want to get into the barbecue world just because they didn't have the money to buy a big smoker, and
Yeah.
they couldn't afford to take 3 or 4 days off.
Yeah.
We see some of that. We see some of the older cookers that have been cooking. They're like, dude, I just don't want to drag the smoker out in 4 days. And because I cooked barbecue also towards the end of my competition days. I cooked barbecue also, and it was a marathon, even for me. But whatever I do, I go big or go home. And unfortunately, I ended up with a 24-foot patio trailer, and it became a job. But it's there's many factors that have helped it, and we just got to keep. This is year 10, and the economy's changing a lot. With
Yeah.
everything going on, and let's face it, we live on expendable income at SCA.
Hmm.
People don't have to go out and compete. So we're just constantly watching the economy and seeing what's happening there. But
Yeah.
really, it's that family atmosphere I think brings people back. We used to call it a family reunion when we had 9 events. When Ken and I cooked, they're like, oh man, we get to go see Johnny, we get to go see Phil, and go see our buddies. Well, now it's almost every week they could see someone if they wanted to.
Yeah.
And
So
that's a neat thing.
yeah. So I mean, you've gotten to the point where you guys are worldwide. Do you have any? I mean, I'm sure you've got the metrics. how many events on a given weekend, or how many events for the year typically go on as an SCA event?
There's one event this weekend because of World Championships next week. We have figured out this is not a great weekend to have events because everyone's saving their money to go to the big one.
Yeah.
But any weekend, generally it's 4 to, I think our biggest weekend is 21 events. So it's,
Really?
Anywhere in between on any given weekend. Average is probably 8 or 9 on a weekend.
Yeah.
And we try to keep them separated. We struggled a bit last year. We tried to say, all right, well, there's a 200-mile buffer between events, 250, 200. And honestly, that just doesn't work. If you're in Mississippi where there's a lot of events, a lot of teams, you can pull it off. But if you're in anywhere, let's say Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, if you have one in either of those 3 states, you can't have another one, even if it's 600 miles away in the same state or in that region.
Just because the volume of actual cookers for it.
Correct. Yeah. And I was real frustrated one weekend. I was on YouTube. I don't know why, but I found a video on there and it talked about America and talked about population densities. And the 95th parallel is San Antonio goes up through Omaha and north. So basically divides America almost in 2/3. But the right third there, 2/3, is 80% of the population density. And we're strong in this side.
Yeah.
Well, 20% of the population is from San Antonio West.
Yeah.
And 10% is California, Washington, and Oregon.
Yeah.
So you can see if you follow a map, it really follow our events follow that map. It's hard to have events in Montana when there's just not enough cookers to support an event.
Yeah. Well, you've got like almost no people there in comparison. So I definitely can see it.
It's hard. It's been a learning curve, lesson for us. Every year you're learning something new. But I think if you stop learning, you're done, or you think you figured it out. We're kind of reinventing a little bit. We're gonna make some announcements at the championships. Nothing's changing. Stakes our focus as always, but every year we have ancillary categories, and this year we've got the World Burger Championship. We're doing ribs this year. I got 175 teams cooking ribs. There's 200 cooking burgers. And what's the first round? First round's appetizers, and I've got 200 cooking it. Yeah. So it's been interesting. And we used to not value the sides. It was just something to do during the afternoon. It basically kept people some food in their stomachs so they didn't drink too much. Or honestly, that's kind of what it was at the beginning of it. But you roll out bologna, I'm turning in bologna. I just want to compete.
Yeah, it's something fun to do and something different.
So we decided let's put the focus on ancillary a little bit back, 2 years ago or so, 3 years maybe. And what it's done is it got the spouses involved in it. Now you see more families out there, and husband and wives are doing it. And then now you're seeing women whip the men. These women are deadly on the circuit, man. They're whipping on steak too. Some of our Sandy Brown's one of our strongest cooks. Yeah, she's a machine. Yeah. But it's really opened up that market, and instead of treating it kind of as a smaller or lesser part of the event, we've given it more credit, and we give a golden ticket. That's what everyone that's at the World Championship has to have, a golden ticket, an invitation to be there. So all 200 of these teams, they've all won. They're all good. They got their golden tickets.
Yeah.
So by putting more emphasis, I think it's really helped develop that side of it.
So if you get a golden ticket, regardless if it's in the steak side and the ancillary side, you still get to go and cook anything that's being cooked at the championship. Yes.
Well, if you get a gold ticket, a steak ticket, it's just for steak.
Okay.
So an ancillary allows you to cook in any of the ancillary categories.
Okay.
The steak one, we kept that separate just because that's the main star. Yeah. But you could cook in the other ancillary categories and choose which category or all of them if you have the ancillary ticket.
Mm-hmm.
So it just brought more people into the sport, I guess. Where else can an overweight man like me do well in a competition other than I can't be a lineman, man. I'm not fast, but I can
Yeah.
cook.
Yeah. So when you guys were starting, obviously things have changed a little bit. Um, if I'm explaining somebody, if I'm explaining to somebody that wants to get into the SCA and cook, an overview of what kind of a steak are they cooking and what's the target, what's the target doneness,
Mhm.
and do you guys have flavor profiles that fluctuate
Right.
like the competition world? I mean, like raspberry chipotle was super popular, for a given time in barbecue. Does it alternate like that, or is it just steak?
No, it does change. It really depends. Let me just do an overview of the whole thing, just if they haven't done an SCA. Basically, at an SCA event, if 87% of the country has some sort of grill in their backyard, whether it be gas, charcoal, wood, whatever it is, 6% of the country has a smoker in their backyard. So
Hmm.
we thought, the numbers looked great as far as number of people, and everyone thinks they cook the best steak in the neighborhood.
Oh yeah,
Everyone's the king of the cul-de-sac. I'm sure you're that guy in your neighborhood.
yeah,
So, that's kind of our market, or those guys and gals. But once it get to the event, the steaks are provided by the event promoter. So there's no going out and sourcing a great brisket, sourcing your chicken, your ribs, which took me days because just took me a long time to find my right stuff. But the steaks are provided by the promoter, and it's a level playing field that way. We put the steaks out on the table. They pick, I don't have one around me, but we have these purple bags that my favorite beverage comes in, and we put poker chips in them. They reach in, they grab a chip, and that tells them what their number is for steak selection. So it's very random as to where they pick their
hmm,
steaks. It's kind of a luck of chance, but then once you get your chip, it's up to you to pick that steak. And
yeah,
they come to the table, they line up numerical order, and they got 30 seconds. And man, things start to pucker up when you get up there. Time goes fast, and
yeah,
I watch people that'll get the first chip, and that's sometimes the worst thing that could happen to some of these cooks because they
yeah,
get nervous. Man, I I had a guy on my team, and I'll admit this. His job was to make sure I drank enough to stay out of my head.
yeah,
Because same as golf. I was the same way on the golf course. I couldn't watch a guy boom a driver down there, hit his big Bartha. I always
yeah,
poked the 5-wood right down the middle. I wouldn't watch him. Same thing in the steak selection. You go up there and just cook like you're cooking for your family instead of putting the pressure on yourself. So I
yeah.
go up, pick my steak. Once they pick their steaks, we reverse the line, and they get to pick a second steak. And the reason they get two is they're going to turn in one for judging, and the other one's their practice steak.
Hmm.
Do this about 10 o'clock. By the time they get their steaks, they don't turn in their actual competition till 2 to 2:30 usually. It varies, but 2 to 2:30, and they got a half-hour window to turn in that one steak
Hmm.
in the box for the judges. And once they turn in, they're free. They just socialize, whatever they do in the afternoon until awards. We're pretty quick. We get awards done, get them in and out, get people in and out and back to their houses.
Yeah,
But it's a pretty quick day.
yeah. Well, that's what I was kind of looking at it from because I work full time, obviously, and I don't
Mhm.
have the weekends off like I used to. But I can hunt. I can get days here and there.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to try the SCA this year. And what better way to acclimate myself with the SCA than talking to one of the guys that started it, right?
Yeah. I think you'll like it. I mean, it's a little bit different atmosphere. Generally, most people are outside underneath an awning. They
Yeah.
walked around, and I mean, I'd be shocked if after trying it, you said, "Man, nobody talked to me," because these guys are. I mean, problem is they can tell you exactly what they can tell you exactly what they do. Can you do it? And they're
Yeah.
that sharing a lot of the times with people.
Yeah.
You mentioned profiles, and the one pattern I've seen, since we started is, rubs kind of run cycles, and certain areas like certain rubs, it seems. But I think the problem sometimes is too many people start using the same thing, and your
Yeah.
judges are like, "Oh, that's good. Oh, that was good. Well, that one tastes the same. That tastes the same." And people ask why we don't have a beginner division.
Hmm.
Man, people fear the beginners in SCA. because they're not using the same things. They're using what kicks tail in their cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
They come out and they do well. And unfortunately, what happens to the new guy that comes out for the first time and does well, the next time I see him, all of a sudden he's got a little steak trailer, we call him, a little 12, 14-foot trailer. And he's got a sign on the wall that tells him when to light the fire, when to go to the bathroom, when to turn in. Then they start overthinking instead of just cooking like you're cooking for your family.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest advice I give people, other than leave your steak at room temperature. But
Yeah.
just cook like you're cooking for friends and family.
Yeah. Well, I've had several friends that have been in the SCA circuit. A friend of mine here locally, she traveled and cooked the SCA in an SS Camaro. Peggy,
Was that Peggy Grimes? Yes, she did.
so
She
you
would strap
probably
that
know.
Mini Max in her front seat. Yes.
Yeah,
I know her well.
Yeah, she was. I was like, I mean, you can do the SCA out of a drop top Camaro. I mean, like, and it's food sport. Like, what's not to like about it, right?
Yeah, she's one of my examples I use in classes too.
Is she?
Yeah, I use that story. And I remember the first time I met her in Georgia, and she pulls up in that Camaro, had the roof down, had the Mini Max strapped to the seat, had a 4-foot little prep table in the back of her back seat, but I don't think she took it out. She prepped on the tailgate of the car.
Yeah.
Put down a tablecloth and just did it on the trunk of her car. Yeah. And there's people who travel driving Toyota Camrys. I've seen 2 guys that drive around in Camrys. They just load their trunk and it's all they need.
Yeah. So. Well, I mean, and I think that also that kind of gets you almost back to the basics of like food sport, barbecue sport, because now you go to a barbecue event and it's like, oh, there's nobody outside. Everybody's holed up in their trailer. And so this way you can kind of, not that you're forced to speak to people, but like you actually get to interact with other people. So,
yeah, I think that's a big part of it too. I think that is. And, we had a company come to us and offer to have a SCA branded trailer. And we turned it down just because we are worried about losing that part of it, that aspect. Yeah. There are guys out there with trailers, and I had one when I did barbecue too. But some of these events are like we have one here this weekend, and it's in our parking lot at the office here. We're going to judge in the office. They set up around the perimeter here, and sometimes there's not room for trailers at an event.
Yeah.
It's not like people are dragging 40-foot horse trailers out here. It's usually a 12 to 14, 16 footer, but the majority of the teams this weekend, they'll be all under an awning.
Yeah.
They've got 5 or 6 hours during the day to walk around and socialize. And, at some point it becomes crunch time. You got to get that steak in, but we give them a 30-minute window also. So once they get their steak, they cook it and you get to choose where to turn in. Some people think, oh man, I'm going to go to the beginning and I'm going to hit them with a punch right at the beginning and set the bar. That works. Yeah. There's other people who say, man, I'm going to give them a couple to get them out of the way and show them what a great steak tastes like. That works. Then there's guys say, I want to be the last one. And you'll see them like hiding around the corner of the building. Yeah. They think, let's be the last person. I'm a numbers nerd, and, I study numbers and everything about what we do. And man, I can't find a better time to turn in. I mean, I see people win from all different slots. Yeah. Thankfully for us, it allows our judges to be spread out over a 30-minute period. They'll generally taste 15 bites, half-ounce bites, 7.5 ounces in a half hour. And every single time when we're done, we have what we call a grazing table, and I borrowed that from another organization. And when they're done, the judges are welcome to go over there and taste the steaks they didn't taste. Because they don't taste every bite like that initial event I talked about. Yeah. They'll taste 15 bites of steak. So it's those 5 judges' scores that they're worried about, and, you have some cooks that are worried about, they call them angel table or death table or whatever it may be. And I understand that concern, but man, I can tell you the top 10 as I cut the steaks for the judges that day, I could pretty close without taste telling you who the top 10 will be. Just by handling the texture of it, the visual appearance of it, the doneness.
Yeah.
And the good ones rise to the top no matter what table it is. And I always play a game with the judges. And I said, all right, I'm going to guess how many. I'm going to write them on this paper and I put it on the wall. And sure enough, I'm pretty close almost every event as to the balance of the tables.
Really?
And it's that predictable. And I mean, just I've done it enough, but you're going to have great stakes on each table that are going to rise to the top. And it takes all 5 guys because we don't drop scores. It's all 5 actual scores. And the only thing weighted for us is taste. So taste is 0.9 extra. So you can get 4.5 extra points in taste.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the events are won and lost is taste, because events are won by 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 a lot of times.
Yeah. How far out do you guys go decimal wise? Like 2, 3 points, or?
The only one that has a decimal is steak, and you give them a score of 7 to 10, and then a decimal of 0.1 to 0.9.
Okay.
Nothing drives me crazier than have a judge put 0.8 on there. I'm like, was it 1 grain of salt, 1 piece of cumin? What was it?
Yeah.
You can't tell me there's a difference in 10.8 and 10.9, other than every time I see that, I talk to the judge. Hey, when's the last time you cooked a steak? Oh,
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of cooking. Well, you've judged 100 events by now. I mean, anyway, that's just my own personal pet peeve.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's kind of probably every sanctioning body. There's always like a couple of guys that are like, they do all these events, but they never cook themselves.
Yeah.
And to me, that would make, like, if I didn't cook, I think I would weight my scores. I would probably be way more generous than I should be, if anything.
Yeah. Honestly, that hurts a good cook more than it hurts the new cooks or young cook.
Yeah.
The more experience gets hurt by that, because if we're there giving ribbons and puppies, what lets the cook that doesn't perform as well that week know that, hey, man, I was only a point and a quarter away. Well, in reality, if they're elevating, maybe you were really 2 or 3 points.
Yeah.
So that is something that, we're constantly watching and learning. But I sleep well at night knowing it's fair. The winner of the event's the winner of the event. We're double blind. I have no clue who wins and don't want to know.
Yeah.
We ran a test one weekend. It was at Stan Hayes from Operation Barbecue Relief's event. And we ran it similar to another organization where we knew who it was at the beginning and gave them different numbers and everything. Basically ran it like KCBS's number system. And once I got it, I saw the results and the names, and my wife loves it because it's hard for me to tell a lie. Like my dimple goes out in and I'm a host, but I couldn't look at anybody. I had to stare at the 4-H sign because I knew who it was winning.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that at all. And to me, it's better. I love the number system, man. You call out 6, 7, 2, and there's 8 people or 9 people in the room are going, that's me. That's me. And you hear 5 of them, and someone jumps up with their arms in the air. So I love the number system, and to me, it keeps it on our end above reproach. And our person that enters the data is never allowed to be the person taking the stakes. So I feel good about knowing that stuff is the winner's the winner.
Yeah.
It's up to the judges.
Give us about 45 seconds, and we'll get into the second half, man.
All right.
Test. All right. We'll get into the second half. So you said this weekend there's just one event, and because everybody's kind of saving up for the big show, the World Championship. So that's next weekend, yes?
Yep. The big event's next weekend. We host one the weekend of, because a lot of the international teams, they come over and man, when I go to Australia for an event, to help and just work with our reps, I'm there for 5 days total, and I'm back because when these guys they call it holiday, they're gone 2-3 weeks to America.
Yeah.
So they're here, they're looking for an event. In this event, we feature the same ancillaries as we do at the World Championship. So it's a good primer for them.
Yeah.
The judges are usually a little different because we have judges from all over the world at the World Championship, but they get to come in and test their recipes here before the championship the next weekend. We've tried them in other locations the week before. It just didn't work out. This people really, if they're coming, we'll probably have 12 to 15 international teams competing here on Saturday.
Okay.
Plus our regular crowd. It'll be about 40 teams here.
So just a small event, just 40 teams. So
Yeah.
you said you had 200 golden ticket winners. Is that 200 stakes or is that 200 ancillary or what's
200 ancillary category that are attending. Yeah. I mean, there's more golden tickets out there than that. We get about 70 to 75% of them are used at the World Championship. The other 25, I mean, they may have had a guy yesterday that tore his rotator cuff, so he can't come, or some people just can't get out of work because our event is a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday deal. So it is longer than our normal just to fit in everything that we do. But we get about 75% redemption. Stake, we should have about 400 teams, and that's 75% of what golden tickets were given out during the year. It's a little different in Europe, but I think we're at about 56%, tell my numbers, nerd. We're at 56% as of what I know right now, redemption. And think about that. These guys are coming from Australia, New Zealand, Japan. We got 9 teams from Japan coming.
really?
Just blows my mind. So it's neat though to watch things. You remember how barbecue was on fire 9 years ago when Pitmasters was on TV and at their height? And that's the way Australia and New Zealand are for barbecue and steak right now. They're just on fire.
Yeah. Well, and
It's really neat watching.
When I was talking to Jay, it baffles me that he's not full time doing that like that. That's just a little hobby for him. I'm like, really, bro? Like, I'm just like, bro, I think you probably could just do this on a full time basis as massive of an event as this is.
Yeah.
It baffles me that it's not his full time job and he's drawing the crowds that he's drawing and I mean all the events and Brazil and everything else kind of blows my mind a little bit.
He's done a great job, and they have the ABA over there, Australian Barbecue Association Alliance, I think it is. But they're the ones that we kind of work with over there, and they limit it to 30 events a year. That organization runs about 30 a year, and that's all they want to run, which is good too, because it keeps it, we're struggling with that in certain places. It keeps it fresh and new. Everyone wants an event in their town, but once there is, they're like, oh, well, I'm busy that weekend. I'll hit the next one. We have some towns that are doing 3 events a year. Well, if you miss the first one, you're like, oh, I'll just go hit the second one, where if there was one a year there, they would hit that event no matter what. So we're offering rib cook-offs, burger cook-offs, wing and taco cook-offs also. So what we're seeing now is some of the cities that are running multiple events, they'll do a steak in the fall, a spring, they'll do a burger in the summer, and then, another steak later in the year or a taco or something. So it's just given options because it's hard. You want it to be a special event, not just another weekend. Yeah. That falls on the promoter. It's a promoter's event. What are you going to do to keep someone coming to your event rather than drive an extra 3 hours and go to Alabama for another event?
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
That's something we developed during COVID. Is some of these promoters came out of the woodwork that, and I can say this because they're not with most of those aren't with us, but they just saw, man, SCA is doing great. Let's just throw it up there, and it's like pulling teeth to even get a flyer out of these guys.
Yeah.
And those events weren't as successful as they should have been. Some of those
Yeah.
because they didn't put the work in. And we can help you promote an event, but in the end, it's your event. It's get
Yeah.
your local insurance company in there to have a team. $150 entry. That's cheap advertisement. They could banner
Yeah.
up all day if they want.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
you get me started
So
talking. I'm sorry. I just keep going, man. I get excited.
you're you're good. You're good, man. I
10
I
years
wanted
since.
to try to. We were gonna try to gear the second half to the championship, which is
Gotcha.
the big show. But I don't have a script for this particular
Oh,
show, so
I got you.
we go where we go, baby. It doesn't matter to me.
Well, let's talk with the championship. Thursday it starts, and every year we host. We call it our family reunion, and it's
Hmm.
Thursday night. Or well, let's backtrack. It's grown so much that at River Ranch is where we host it. We started at Billy Bob's, Texas, and man, our first one was Oklahoma. When we got to Billy Bob's, we thought, oh man, this is amazing. Billy Bob's the world's largest honky tonk, and they literally
Hmm.
can drive trucks inside Billy Bob's. They've got a rodeo arena in there, and we were right in their courtyard there, and we outgrew it. So we moved over to Will Rogers Coliseum, and now we've got more room. And this year we had to expand our Ribeye Village, which is
Hmm.
basically our RV park. There'll be 103 RVs there this year, and they have their own area. It's right beside where everyone cooks, but if they want to cook in their area, they can. But
Yeah.
we're finding we had one guy rent 2 lots, and he's bringing a band. Good, bring it on. I didn't pay for the band. I like that. But it has created kind of a neat deal where they do that, and B&B has really stepped up. They're one of our sponsors.
Hmm.
They started cooking. Last year I think they had a huge redfish inside the mouth of an alligator, and he talked about cooking a panther. Is it a panther? I don't. When he told me, I said that ain't even legal, and he's like, no, 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 you can do it. It just has to be done right. So they're going to
Yeah.
cook some wild animal out there, and what they do is they set up, and it's this road, and they're just handing samples out to people. B&B's doing it.
Yeah.
Jack Daniels is there. Different people help with that. Hasty Bake also helps with that. So that's a neat thing that people get to see and experience something different that's been added. But Wednesday, the RV Village sets up, and then Thursday, teams can start setting up Thursday morning. We tell them
Hmm.
like 7 o'clock because this is a marathon, not a race. And I'll be
Yeah.
damned if people aren't there at 5 a.m, lined up down the street waiting to get in. I'm like, dude, we got all day. And last year was our first year to expand the parking lot. And
Yeah.
what it did was it freed up space in the cook area. There'll be
Hmm.
over 600 teams there this year. So
Yeah.
to get them all in, last year was the best we've ever done. This year should be even easier, just based on the way things went last year. I think they've got a great pattern. So once they get set up, they're there, and then we have security there, and we host a welcome party. It's our year-end awards. We hand out, if you had a perfect score during the year, we bring you up to stage and award you a medal. Most wins, stats like that win different things.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that happens is our invitation. We bring every international team to the stage. All right, let's bring the guys from Italy, and all the Italy guys come. And then we recognize the top 10 in Italy and give them awards because let's face it, not everyone can chase points. That thing's an animal, the points chase
Yeah.
is. And it's not,
Yeah.
people have wanted us to change the points chase. And we did one year. 2 years ago, we changed it to an average. Well, what happened at the end of the year, people would say, man, I got a 4th place and I'm disappointed. I'm like, well, you got a 4th place. You should be happy. You're like, no, I didn't move up in the points chase. So what we thought would help them by doing an average of events, certain amount, didn't. So the people that are going to chase points are always going to chase points. So we recognize them through the points chase. We award the top 25 at the championship. They come to stage and we give them all a medal. And then we got prizes for the top 10 in both stake and ancillary.
Hmm.
And then, your internationals, they love it because they get recognized on stage, and we put it out on social live, and it's a big night to celebrate them. I was at another event once. It was a world championship type event, and the person up on stage says, "Welcome to my event." And I looked at Ken, and he looked at me, and I'm like, It's not. When we get staged, we say, welcome to your championship, because it is.
Yeah.
Our job's to make much of others. They earned the right to be there. The best
Yeah.
in the world are there. So
Yeah.
we want to, that Thursday night's really just trying to make much of everybody. And then Friday, the action begins. We start with our ancillary round one, sponsored by Croy Valley this year. And so it's an appetizer, and you got to use one of their sauces. They got 7 different sauces, but they have to turn in 6 pieces or portions, a minimum of. And, there's 200 teams competing in this thing. And I'm trying to remember if we break that into 2 rounds. Man, I don't handle that in. I'm sorry. I'm blanking on this one. I want to say we put them in groups of 50, and the top 10 move on to the final.
Yeah. I was going to say, if you're asking me, I have no idea.
No, I was just, that's how much we've had to separate things. Michelle Dang handles the judging side, and that part. Ken handles logistics, and I handle the stage area. The stage presentation I create. So if you ever want to see a minor train wreck, just wait. Something will go wrong with my presentation. We're always laughing every year, but they've all got new systems, so it's going to be awesome. So anyway, Friday's the first round of the appetizers. We'll do that, turn those in. And then Friday is also, we added the rib championship this year. We've got 175, somewhere around there, teams cooking ribs. So one round will turn in, and then a couple hours later, your ribs will turn in. And then we do awards that night, a big coliseum that seats about 2,500. And then the next day, the finals of the ancillary category, the appetizers. And then the finals there will cook burgers. It's the World Burger Championship. That's sponsored by Croy Valley. And, they're cooking 2 burgers, turn in 2 beautiful full-size burgers in a box. And that'll determine our ancillary world champion. And they get $3,000. I don't even have my ring on, but a world champion ring. And it gets pretty intense. And last year, the guy that won it, man, dude was from the Netherlands, had never cooked a darn taco, went to Walmart, bought Ortega taco shells. Now, we went through this phase as things have evolved with the ancillaries. And so we've had to add some specific rules. And one of them must be either fold or rolled with a protein in the middle. Everyone knows what a taco is.
Yeah.
In the past, people would turn in like taco soup, taco pizza, but which I get, that's creative, but this wasn't this is a specific category. So they were 6 of the prettiest just tacos I've ever seen. And the guy won the world championship on 6 tacos. And I think the cheese he used was Munster cheese on it.
Really?
Yeah. And my buddy Timmy is friends with him. He got to taste it and said it was a great taco, but it was just a good taco. You don't have to do too far out of the box. We like creativity, and we really encourage that. But this wasn't, we have some categories that we've made specific, such as burger. Funny story, back in probably year 5, we had a guy turn in a taco cake, a pizza cake. And it looked like that Netflix show what the hell am I saying? A burger. It looked like a perfect burger. Had little seeds on top. I think he airbrushed it. He got a perfect score in Australia with this burger. Well, is that really a burger? The judges that day thought, but that caused us to change the rule. Burgers must contain a ground protein patty. I mean, he was playing by the rules. But would you like to lose to a cake in a burger competition?
No.
No. And so any of our rules,
that's tough to swallow.
Yeah. So any of the rules that, whenever we come across something like that, that's when you see rule changes. We don't like to change them just to change them. But if you're going for a world championship, you want to know you're competing against the best burger out there. You want to win with the best burger. And that was our focus at the world championship. And then ribs is just a 2-round shootout, or it's a 1 round, but two groups. Each of them gets 1,500 for first place, pays top 15. Steak World Championships, 10 grand. And we start round one on Saturday. Starts with 400 teams. We divide those into groups. The top 8 groups, top ones advance to the finals. And then in the finals, they cook the next day. They have their own steak selection. And then if you're just if you don't have a golden ticket but want to come out and experience it, you could sign up for the Cowtown Classic, which is held at the same location, and anyone could cook there and still be part of the experience on Sunday. And we'll have 400 teams in it also. So we're running a 400 team steak cook-off, 2 400 team steak cook-offs, a 90 team steak cook-off. I think there's four of the ancillary round cook-off of 50 teams, two burgers of 100 or 2 ribs of 100. I mean, we got 7 or 8 events all being judged in the same weekend.
That's now when you're bringing in judges for that kind of an event, how many judges do you need for that many events and that many rounds? And I mean,
sure, we generally have 150 a day, 150 judges, and they do a great job. Michelle delegates it to a couple people that help them, and just to make sure no one's judging back to back, or when it comes to the finals, we use people that are veterans, are people that have over 100 events. They're judging the steak finals because we want the most experience possible for the people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is a challenge, getting the judges. They don't get paid a penny. We have judges that are coming from Japan, from Europe. I mean, one of them just arrived this morning. A couple from Hungary just got here.
Wow.
So yeah, this office will be hopping for the next week and a half, and I've got so much to do with the presentation. I do videos and stuff, but it's neat seeing the different people come in, and it's really a fun time of year for us.
Yeah, this whole, like I said before, I mean, in the beginning, like this whole watching the SCA kind of like evolve and be is super fascinating for me too. It definitely makes me want to shoot for a golden ticket for next year for sure.
Well, and we not everything works that we try. We roll stuff out, and sometimes it doesn't work, but you learn from it, or if you have a mistake, you own it as soon as you can.
Yeah,
own it and move on. And we've learned some lessons along the way, and we've learned some things that have worked, and we've got some promoters that put out some amazing videos for other promoters to help them with their events. And I hate to say it, but it's their event. We run the judging and help them with the judges and everything. We take a lot of the work off of the promoter other than promoting their event. So, that's the key for these promoters is let's get some locals involved, and we'll bring some out of towners, and we're going to have a great time.
Yeah. So year 10 and beyond, right?
Crazy. I know. We're still going. We're evolving. Every year evolves just a little bit. I mean, honestly, our judging system now is not much different than it was in year 2 or 1. Just with some little tweaks. We listen to the cooks and listen to judges, and that's where tweaks have came from. But going forward, it still stays the focus, but we are expanding some things a little bit, and we'll offer some other categories that will also be valued as a golden ticket category. And I think you might see the championship expand even a little bit bigger. I don't know how we can. I mean, we really fit a lot into this thing, but if you're coming all this way, and say you're a steak cook and you go to the party Thursday, because no one wants to miss that thing, and then Friday you really had nothing to do. That's why we added the ribs, and now steak that are doing just steak can do ribs Friday, do steak Saturday and Sunday. So it really helped fill in the weekend, and I would expect you might see some new things next year also.
So do you have people that join the SCA for the SCA portion, the steak portion of it, and then they start doing the ancillary too? Do you have people that are going with dual tickets that are cooking everything every single day too?
Ken told me 60% are doing both. They're dual tickets. Yeah. He
Wow.
handles the registration for America. I do all the international stuff for the championship, and he says it's 60% have dual ticket. You know, and our percentage is slightly lower on the ancillary ticket because
Yeah.
you know the stake, everyone stakes a star usually, and they want to show up for the stake. And sometimes people are like, "Oh, well, it's just the ancillary." Well, it's not, man.
Yeah.
You can still win great money, and you're
Yeah.
still at the world
It sounds
championship.
like it.
Get a ring, and I mean, we give a ring to the ancillary world champion also.
Yeah.
So we're trying to make it. I mean, stake's always going to be the star, but we want to make much of the other as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's food sport in general, and I
Yeah.
mean, pretty much all the things that you've added, those are all that can be kind of in the same timeline, you know, the window that you're doing an SCA event anyway. So
Yeah. It all
I just want
works
to
in.
make note, I don't have any world championship rings this on this hand. I got a wedding ring on this hand. We're
There you go.
hoping that this time next year we'll be headed to come see you for
That'd
the
be great. We
SCA.
do it in March every year. We end the season in December. Our points chase ends in December. A lot of people wait till mid-year, you know, and then also because if the winner has a golden ticket, it drops to number 2. So each event will have somebody represented, but
Yeah.
it'll only go down to 10. But I've seen like someone get 7th place, get their ticket, you know,
Really?
and yeah, like towards the end of the season, sometimes you'll see that happening. You know, the
Yeah.
beginning of the year, no one has a ticket. But
Yeah.
towards the end of the year, you'll see some of that. And you see guys that, you know, they've competed all year and then they'll get their ticket the last weekend. And I mean,
Yeah.
some of my favorite pictures, these guys going nuts when they get their ticket. And I
Yeah.
never thought that would be, you know, that's not what was created. It came of it. And that's been one of the neat parts.
Yeah. So we're going to try to wrap it up a
Yep.
couple minutes early. Hit me with the socials where they can find information about the SCA,
Yes, sir.
and we'll sign out.
All right. Our website is steakcookoffs.com. That's plural, cookoffs.com. That is our main part there. We are at Steak Cookoffs on Instagram. I'm Steak OG on Instagram. On Facebook, you can just put in SCA. You're going to find us because we've got SCA Europe, SCA Australia, SCA New Zealand, SCA Mexico. There's the SCA normal page, our Steak Cook-Off Association page. And we have a group page. If you're a new cook and want to learn where events are, we put all the events on the group page. We used to send emails out, and we found the more emails you send, the less your open rate is, less
Right.
people look at them. And so we decided, let's just put them on there. And so people either check our website or they look on the SCA group page for new events that are coming out. And that's where promoters push their events. And it's also a great place for a new cook to ask tips. You know, hey, man, I noticed you got a cook box you're cooking out of. What is that? And guys will just say, oh, here it is. Here's a link. And so we've got many ways to find us on social. I got a new book out, Recipes from the Ranch. And you can find that at Gallawayville.com. That's we call it Gallawayville Ranch, but first book's out, and had I had another couple weeks, the second one would have been out by the championship. But some things need to take a back seat while you're preparing for the largest cook-off. This is our largest world championship ever. So a lot of things have been put on the back burner until after this event. But public's welcome. If you're anywhere near Fort Worth, Texas, come out and see it. If you're there, come by the stage, say hi. But yeah, there'll be 600 teams set up from around the world. It's a great experience.
That is absolutely phenomenal, man. I do have one question.
Sure.
You're on pretty much every continent outside of like Antarctica, yes?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, Antarctica hasn't happened yet. We're going to Brazil. I heard you mention Brazil. Brazil's new this year. Well, one of the new ones was weird. It's a banking Luxembourg. It's a banking community about the size of a Rhode Island in Europe.
Really?
Never thought we'd be in Lexington. I didn't know what the heck Lexington was. I thought it was a good brand of whiskey. I was wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's really been mind blowing, and we're very thankful for it. And more than anything, it's making this big world a lot smaller. I mean,
yeah.
One last thing, that at our championship, we used to provide a trailer, and we'd have to run 3 trailers out there when we started of equipment for international teams.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, we paired them up with teams, and the world is smaller. Now all these teams, these 70 some teams are being provided by teams from America. They're hosting them, they're cooking with them. Imagine being from Europe and you're cooking with Johnny Joseph, 3-time world champion. You're cooking with Tim and Sandy Brown, 3-4 points champions. I mean, unbelievable. And that's made this bigger thing smaller. So we're really proud of that. And
Absolutely.
I just want to get this thing started. I'm ready.
As you should be. You're hopped up and ready to go.
I know
hopped up on Mountain Dew, right?
Pretty close. Yeah. I saw you too, yeah.
So, well, I figured I wasn't going to leave you alone, right?
Yeah,
I'm off
appreciate
today
that.
anyways, right?
Yeah.
So that'll put this week's episode of the Smoke Ring Syndicate in the books. Shout out to our guest this week, Brett Gallaway. Guys, if you've enjoyed this week's episode, I would appreciate a review, a like, a share, and as always, keep smoking. And I appreciate your time, man. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I've enlightened myself a little bit with the SCA more, and this was kind of like what the podcast is about. It's the barbecue lifestyle, and it kind of has, for you, it started as like a little hobby, and it's made the turn into a job, and now it's made the turn into a worldwide organization. I don't know how you're going to spread yourself much more thin than you are 10 years in.
We don't know either. That's kind of where we're at, and that's why this year we don't tell everyone, but last year I turned down 87 events.
Really?
87 I told no, because just remember I talked about numbers and distances.
Yeah.
They would have fit within the parameters we had then, but it would have not benefited either event. And I would rather have one successful event than two that aren't. And so we've tried to intentionally slow things down. And so I think that we just think it's the right move. I want every event to be successful.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, man.
I appreciate
I'm gonna let you
I appreciate you having me on, and I know it took a little bit to get it arranged, and
all good.
I apologize.
All good, man. I've got some folks that I'm five attempts in.
Oh, wow.
one guy in particular, we've set 4 dates, and he's canceled on me 4 times.
Oh no.
Yeah. So
you wasn't that bad, but I appreciate your patience.
I'm happy to wait just to be able to get to chat with some of the folks that I get to chat with. So we'll catch you next time, man, and hope to be able to shake your hand in 24.
Absolutely. Hopefully it's heading your golden ticket.
Absolutely, man. Thank you, buddy.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody, for watching the behind the scenes of the Smoke Ring Syndicate. And we're signing off for today. See y'all.